NFL owners wearing headsets during games. Fans are crying foul. Some of it makes sense. Tom Brady has an unfair advantage, especially since the league changed its rules to accommodate him. I'll explain that and tell you why the new Colts owner is brilliant for wearing her headset. I'm Doug Kezirian. This is Hard Pass, also available in podcast. Tom Brady was just cruising along, being rich, famous, and good-looking, and now maybe he's having flashbacks to Deflategate and Spygate, all because of a single camera shot during the broadcast of Monday Night Football, opening the floodgates. All of a sudden, the entire sports world wants the NFL to stop bending the rules for him. And yes, they have bent the rules for the golden boy, Tom Brady, and it's ridiculous. Let's clarify the controversy, because it's not that he's a Raiders owner or that he was even sitting in the coaching box. That's all dandy. That's even great for the league when you think about the poster boy being an owner, or at least part owner. It's his other job. That's the issue. As a Fox broadcaster for games each Sunday, Brady gains access and information that no other owners have. He's privy to meetings and chats, many involving game plans that could help his Las Vegas Raiders. Plus, his football knowledge and aptitude obviously off the charts. So he's not just any broadcaster, and he's certainly not just any owner when it comes to football acumen. His intellect is elite and thus can do shady things to help the Raiders if he were so inclined. ESPN's Tony Kornheiser lays out the worst case scenario.
If he has a different agenda, if his agenda is because he is an owner of the Raiders, then he may be looking for certain kinds of information to pass along.
Yes.
He has a privilege that no other owner has in talking to these players and these coaches.
So Kornheiser, again, worst case scenario, but the plot thickens. Brady is on the broadcast for Bears Cowboys. And guess who the Bears play next week? The Las Vegas Raiders. Ridiculous, right? Consecutive weeks. Reason enough he should not be allowed to talk to players and coaches prior to the Bears playing the Cowboys and glean information, right? It should not be allowed. Here's Scott Kaplan with George Sedano, who co-host a radio show together in LA.
You're going to have the producer, the director, the play-by-play guy, the analyst, you're going to have the full broadcast team, and everybody's going to be sitting in a conference room, and the head coach comes in, and then the offensive coordinator,
and then the
defensive coordinator, quarterback, right, star of the defense. So you're there for several hours, and you're interviewing all these people. And when you're a former player, whether you're of Tom Brady's stature, or I used to do it all the time with Rich Gannon, we'd go into these meetings, and everyone's like, oh, Rich Gannon, former MVP. Like, I feel like he's one of us, so we're going to feel comfortable, and we're going to give him something.
Correct. It's a great point. The halo effect is certainly in play. He inevitably will get these young players who've idolized him forever to drop their guard and give in to his questions. The mystique of Brady will help that, right? They'll disarm him. They're only human, and they love to talk shop with him, maybe impress him. During Monday Night Football, ESPN reported that Brady visits with Raiders offensive coordinator Chip Kelly 2 or 3 times a week to go over film and even the game plan. So yes, he will chat on Friday before the Bears play the Cowboys with coaches and players of Chicago, and then help Chip Kelly the following week implement a game plan. How is this even remotely allowed? Now, last year, when Brady became a part owner, NFL prevented Brady from meeting with teams because of the conflict of interest, or at least the potential conflict of interest, right? They took the high road, had some integrity. But for this season, the NFL softened that rule, now allows him to meet with them remotely, like over Zoom. But why would the league soften its rules? Why would they bend? It was fine. Because Brady wasn't that good on the broadcast. He didn't have good information. He was just observing like a fan, had no inside info from the coaches or players ahead of time, so they wanted to help him do his job better. After all, the broadcasts are better if he's gleaning info ahead of time, and Fox pays him $375 million over 10 years. So the NFL's in the business of Brady looking good on camera and sounding great during the broadcast. You have to mention, he was already involved in 2 cheating scandals, whether the Patriots fans want to admit it or not. The legitimacy does not matter. He was involved because of 2 things. 1, he's the quarterback and the face of the franchise. And number 2, there were allegations. No need to litigate what happened or did not happen, but those 2 things are inarguable. He was the quarterback and face of the team, and there were allegations. So now you have very bad optics, letting him do things no other owner is allowed to do. And again, with the backstory of Spygate and Deflategate, it's absurd. The irony of the camera shot showed him doing absolutely nothing wrong. He wasn't caught red-handed or anything, but it's visual. It's a tangible thing for fans to see that allowed people to finally connect the dots of what Brady's two jobs could, and I stress could, be a conflict of interest. Now, in many industries, rules are put in place to prevent temptation of breaking the rules, right? The NFL had those. Now, the key word is had, and then they softened them this year, letting him do it virtually. But the NFL didn't have to make that exception for their golden boy, but they did. It's utterly ridiculous. The single reason this has not become an issue since day one is because the Raiders stink. Imagine if Brady was a part owner of the Kansas City Chiefs, and every year they're getting all the calls, he's allowed to do this, things like that. There would be mayhem. Now, fans saw him involved during the game, but that's why it shifted from hypothetical to reality. It started to sink in. He should absolutely not be allowed to ask questions with these players and coaches before, especially from a team that the Raiders are going to face the next week. Again, if the Vegas Raiders were among the best teams, the owners would be boycotting this like no other. This is a league that's been accused of having a predetermined script. As insane as that is, some fans think that. Officiating is routinely criticized for helping the NFL big picture, things along those lines. This is the last thing they should be allowing, but they're doing it because it's Tom Brady. Let me know your thoughts on this as we have a heat check, because there's certainly been reaction when Brady's appearance on Monday Night Football started generating interest across social media. Andrew Brandt, who's a lawyer, by the way, but former Packers front office member, on the Tom Brady discussion, even if he is barred from Fox production meetings, his broadcast colleagues will tell him anything he wants to know. Simply, he's allowed to do more and know more about other teams than any part owner in the league, allowed and blessed by the NFL. That's a good point. He'll tell his colleagues, hey, when you ask Andy Reid, ask him this, right? So he'll sound smarter, even if he weren't allowed to talk to them. Ted Nguyen, I think if you're telling Tom Brady intricate details about your team, that's on you. It's a fair point. Players should know not to tell him that. But again, many reasons why they would. And Ed Kraz, who's a media member in Philly, Tom Brady cannot be trusted to do both broadcasting and a minority owner. He's been part of Deflategate and Spygate. He knows how to game the system, but let's keep talking about the tush push. And that's what he was saying. Like, why are we making such a big deal about the tush push when there's this clear conflict of interest going on with Tom Brady? Let me know your thoughts on this hot topic. Should Brady have to pull back his broadcasting duties if he wants to remain a part owner of the Raiders, or is this a lot of hoopla? Players aren't giving him anything because their coaches have instructed them not to because of the fact that he's connected to the Raiders. Or is this just the league just bending over backwards for its golden boy? Let me know your thoughts. Join the conversation, as we like to say. And somehow, with incredible timing, another image of a part owner wearing a headset has also generated buzz recently, but for much different reasons. Indianapolis Colts principal owner Carlie Irsay-Gordon wears a headset during games. Now, we are incapable of leaving it at just that because her being a female is absolutely part of the discussion. Like it or not, it just is. As soon as the images have made the rounds and the story got legs, the lazy takes were rampant. Numerous idiots accusing the female of ruining the team as if she's trying to interrupt coaches on the headset and maybe even call plays. Insane, right? I actually think what she's doing is brilliant, and I'm surprised other teams don't do it as well. It's called quality control. She's one of three sisters who've taken over for their father, Jim Irsay, who passed away earlier in May. Now, she's the successor because she's been involved with the organization for a couple decades. All throughout, she has sat in on meetings and wants to observe how things are done. But now it's magnified because she's the principal owner in the wake of her dad's passing. Here she is on a preseason broadcast. You know, it's very informal, joining the discussion and offering some backstory to everything.
I think at first it was a little like, but I remember when Frank Reich was here, he said, this is a great idea. And my dad thought it was great. And he just said, the one thing you have to do is you have to be here all the time. Because if you show up like a week after we lose, and then you're not there when we win, you have to be there and be all in.
Now, owners are not part of the games. They do hire the people that are in charge of the entire football product. So she wants to gather as much information and intel as possible. She wants to know if these people know what they're doing, right? If they just give her excuses because she's not in the loop during the games, now she has the answers. Ask yourself this: if she were not a female, would you have any issue of this? In other industries, bosses often let sort of their people step below or to run the meetings. I remember in high school, an administrator would sit in on some classes when there was a new teacher, a new hire, and just observe from time to time. I think it's totally normal, as long as she's not disrupting the workflow during the game, which obviously is not happening. You know what else is not happening? She's not calling games on the weekend for Fox and gaining information that might help her team like Tom Brady's doing. Also, she's not behaving like Jerry Jones, holding press conferences after every game and making it so much about him, although the Cowboys are the biggest brand in all of sports. Look at this video of her after Indy's walk-off field goal. Dramatic victory, right? She's justifiably excited, and then insert herself in the celebration. Totally normal to cheer, and then she acted like an owner or a boss, allowing the players to storm the field and celebrate while she stood back. Again, I have a feeling over time, other owners will start using a headset during games to make sure the coaching staff tasked running the main part of their multi-billion-dollar company knows what the heck they're doing, right? You only know them in meetings when you hired them. You don't know what it's like in the battle, if you will. Let me know your thoughts. Do you agree with how Irsay-Gordon is handling her duties as owner and CEO? Or does the headset send the wrong message, like eavesdropping, micromanaging? Does the female aspect of all this play a role? Let me know your thoughts. Join the conversation. Time now for fans in the stands, and this is when I like to single out a few comments in our comment section on the YouTube page. And all questions welcome, whether it pertains to the last episode or just generic questions, feedback, what you like, what you dislike. The audience is our fans in the stands. And don't forget to like and subscribe for the show. Also, hype. It is the currency in this YouTube world. It really helps us out. First comment I want to address, Sean Scott in the last episode, huge Kirk fan here, as in Charlie Kirk, but his death has nothing to do with the NFL, no reason for the moment of silence. I responded, how would you feel if the NFL held a moment of silence for both Kirk and the school shooting victims when they happened within a days of apart of one another? He said, I'm not for either. And that's what was so interesting and somewhat controversial, given Kirk is an activist for the right and fairly polarizing. But what the NFL did is allowed every team that was hosting a game that weekend, it was their decision whether to host a moment of silence or not. And about 5 or 6 did, and about 5 or 6 did not. So that was sort of the universal response. Obviously, no politics in sports was a big thing, particularly with Colin Kaepernick about a decade ago, but this was more of a death rather than a silent protest, things like that. But it was worth discussing or worth bringing up because it was certainly a hot topic, so to speak, throughout the league. Darren J., in regards to the Eagles' win over the Chiefs in the tush push, I have nothing wrong with the tush push, but this past game, it was beyond obvious the entire line was offsides pre-snap. Their line is already so good at the play, they don't need any unfair advantages. As long as the refs stay on top of this going forward, I don't think the NFL should ban it, and I dislike the Eagles. So he wanted to specify that he's not like he's an Eagles fan and trying to stump for Philly's sort of competitive advantage. But yeah, it's not against the rules. Now, other things that have similar sort of flavor of that rugby scrum are against the rules, and it almost passed. It was 2 votes shy last spring, the NFL banning it. And obviously the offsides penalties or the false starts, that has to be called. And what Darren's saying is, look, they're just good at it. Why can't others emulate it? And that's sort of the running narrative and running conversation. 311 KBB, it's hypocritical. Also, they wait a heck of a lot longer to blow the play dead than any standard scrum. And I agree. Usually when it's middle of the field and there's a sort of a push and a pushback, they'll blow the whistle dead. But around the goal line, they let it a lot more go, a lot more latitude, and that obviously leads to certain extracurricular at the bottom of the pile, but it's also part of the tush push or the brotherly shove, if you will. Really good feedback across the board. It was an interesting story. We'll see what happens with the Eagles moving forward. Obviously, the league's not going to change any rules during the season, but it is pretty fascinating considering they are the defending Super Bowl champs. That's going to do it for this edition of Hard Pass. Who would have thought owners wearing headsets generating so much controversy, if you will.